Hey guys, welcome. Frank Victor Ain here. Just following up with this video card review. So running into some computer specs here, and I just wrote myself a couple of talking points. CPU, this is a 7950X3D. It's overclocked to 5875 using precision boost with a 75 plus multiplier, and you're saying, well, that's higher than 75. It is. Infinity Fab, which I'll explain here in just a moment. Infinity Fabric is overclocked to 2000 megahertz. I can get it to go 2033, but I noticed that there was just a hair of instability under sustained usage. This is really important for disk benchmark. DDR5 CL36000, it's overclocked to 6120 with really tight memory timings, 28, 28, 28, 28, and 28 all the way across the board, so it's tight. Voltage is overclocked to 1.45 volts. This has passive air cooling. I haven't put a liquid cooler on it. There's nothing else weird going on here. The BLK, not the E-clock, is overclocked to 102.5 megahertz, and that pushes everything. Some of the benchmarks that I'm going to review today, user benchmarks, 3D benchmark, that's super common. So both user benchmark and 3D benchmark. AIDA64, I'll just show you the display that I have set in the screen, and that should give you an overview. So I'm going to pull this guy up here too. This is an AIDA64. This is meant to be like a diagnostic screen that you can, some of them will build like little 3-inch screens or 7-inch screens. This is a 13-inch screen, and it sits inside of my Tower 900 case. Gives me all the data, shows you what everything's overclocked to. Currently, if I'm looking at this GPU temperature, man, this thing's running over 40 degrees, and the reason being, this Yeti microphone, I mean, it picks up everything. Like, it'll pick up a bird chirping 2 neighborhoods down. So I'm sure, like, I just tapped on the desk with my finger. I'm sure you can hear it. So all fans are turned off. Everything is 100% silent, which this is really impressive considering that I have no movement in the cooling system at all. And this thing is still around 40 degrees Celsius. Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's exactly 40 right now. And this thing's been here for, I'd say a good hour or so. But you can see that it's also hurt the frequency clock a little bit too, just because this thing's running hotter than it normally does. But that's kind of my stat screen. I'm going to pull this thing back to its home. And just for reference sake here, you can see that the computer's covered with a blanket. All the fans are turned off on it. And again, that's just so you guys don't have fan noise for the audio version of this. So, let's go ahead and jump into a few benchmarks. And I think the very first one that I'm going to show you is disk benchmark. So I pre-recorded this. As you guys probably noticed, that's fast. That's like really fast. So this bottom number, this 9373 down here, that's what really is important because that's all your really small files. The way that I got the extra performance out of this is the BLK clock in the Infinity Fabric. And I pushed this right up to the point where I started to notice some read errors on the drive and then tuned it back. So it's running about as hard as you can do it. So folks that think that you can't overclock an NVMe, you can. BLK, baby, you'll do it. World's fastest SSD 5? Probably not, but it's up there. So let's go ahead and talk about this for a minute. This is, well, you'll notice that I've increased to 41 degrees, 950 volts core. That's undervolted a long ways. Power limit plus 15. The core frequency, the GPU frequency is clocked to just over 3,000, and the memory clock's at 2,800. So that's hot, guys. Anyhow, this thing for benchmarking, it's 100% stable here. As far as everyday gamer, I will actually run it on this profile, which I just, as a matter of fact, this thing's starting to get hot enough. I should probably pull it off that other profile with no fans. So 1070 is where I'm running it. Frequency is the same. Memory's underclocked just a little bit. And of course, the power limit's still at 15% plus. Man, I wish I had a way to override this power limit. I still haven't found any good research out there that shows a shunt mod or a way to trick this into a higher power limit, because I'm running cool enough that I know I can give this thing more current and get more power out of it. It's already pulling over 400 watts. I mean, this thing's just a damn heat pump. But nevertheless, so there's some stats on oh, and if you guys don't know, this is MSI Afterburner. This has overclocking software. It also gives you all the frame rate, temperature, GPU load. You can set all of those profiles to overlay on any of the games that you run. Alrighty, so jumping into some actual benchmark stuff here. And again, I pre-recorded all this stuff knowing in advance that I'd, from an audio standpoint, because of the fans and no load, this thing will boil the damn water out of it. So I think I'm actually going to talk about this one second, and I think I'm going to go to the go to this guy here. This is a user benchmark, and anyone that's ever used user benchmark, they know they hate AMD, and a lot of the benchmarks are really cited not towards it, but the opposite, and that's known. But nevertheless, I figured what a great place to start, right? So let's just take a look at where this thing came in at. So if I look at the overclock that I got on this, you figure. You can look at the bell curve here, and I'm right at the end of the bell curve. There's a few folks out here that got these chips to go a little bit faster, but for the vast majority, I'm much faster than the majority of the folks out there. I'm actually waiting for D. Bauer's direct die liquid cooler, because then I'm going to bolt that on, put liquid metal on it, and see how far I can push that chip. But I'm clocked about as far as you can go. So that 7950, it's an ASRock 7950 XTX. If you look at this thing, so here's the bell curve, and I'm all the way over here. And we'll take a minute, and I'll come back to this and show this to some other comparative stores. But I'm showing a benchmark score of 315%, right? Okay, so there's a backup. By the way, that's a P3. That's not really a fast drive. That's my backup storage drive, and it's for a cheap drive, it's good. That's that T7000 Crucial. That look at this thing, 649%. The benchmark is 500%. It's completely off the chart. Not fast, really fast, unmeasurably fast. Anyhow, guys, I figured you guys might like that. So let's look at the memory that I have tweaked here. So again, here's the bell curve. I'm at 317%. I'm basically off the charts. I see that there are a few people out here that have gotten this memory module to actually go faster. I guarantee you that is not in an AMD machine. That's probably in an Intel machine, where the memory controller is a little bit better and you can get more frequency out of it. So pretty damn impressive all in all. So let's compare. So today's review really was video card, but I wanted to cover some other stuff. 315%, where does that stack up at? So if I were to go to user benchmark, go to average score, so these 4080s out here are showing me 254 to 309, so it's faster than any of those that have been tested, 13,000 samples. It's not as fast as a 4090, which we all know. Well, and I would argue that this thing in some games, some applications is probably actually a little faster as far as it's overclocked, but overall it's probably not. So the 7900 XTX has a relative score of 256 and a sample with over 1300 between 221 and 278. And again, I have a score of 315 here, so I have just blown the doors off of these things. Blown the doors off of them. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into some additional benchmarks here. This is 3D Mark. Everyone runs this. This is a validated rescore. So if I look at this thing, it is faster than 94% of all the other results for this video card. This is showing you that this thing was running 5873, and by the way, that's under 100% load. Very, very impressive. And again, that's a PC Mark score of 1633. I viewed this online. This is faster than many of the 4090s out there. Obviously, not all of them. There's some guys on liquid nitrogen with some crazy voltages, and just doing some stuff that's just way outside of the range of normal. I turned off all the fans and started clocking this thing, and I wanted to show you frequency. This was using this is AMD FSR, and I don't know about you guys, but regardless of in NVIDIA or AMD, I'm not real fond of fake frames, and it increases the latency. And if you start to look at latency, to me, this whole game is about reducing latency, because the reality is the average human cannot see above 15 frames per second. As a matter of fact, TV's displayed at 27 frames per second. You show me the human that's counted the number of frames, right? So anything under 27 you can't see. But if you take a computer from 20 milliseconds to 5 milliseconds, that makes a noticeable difference in feel and response. So this whole thing is about reducing response time, reducing latency. And the problem is both of these technologies, they increase the latency. So the feel is worse, not better. It's fake. I mean, someday they'll probably get that technology where it's pretty good, but today it's not great. So running into this thing, talking about, and I'm just going to scale this thing a little different. So let's just look at some frequencies here. 2944, 100% load. If I come up to here, 2990, that baby is running right at 3,000 megahertz under 100% load with a 3D Mark benchmark. So a GPU is just flying. It's flying. And I don't think that I hit silicon lottery here. There's a few things that I've done. The computer itself. This was an ASRock 7900 XTX. I put a GPU waterblock cooler on it. There's liquid metal between the CPU and the block. And the other thing that I have is a really big radiator in this thing. And I'll show a couple videos, a couple of photos of it. It's a 580 millimeter tall radiator. It's 80 millimeters wide. And I have Arctic Freezer P14 fans on both sides of it. 4 fans, since it's 580s, 140 millimeter fans, you can push 4 of those on each side. So there's 8 fans on the radiator. To say that it's stone quiet, that would be a lie. Those fans are relatively quiet. It's a big case. It's not too bad, but this thing pushes just a crazy amount of air.